Hi, welcome back to Gotta Be Me podcast. We are so happy to be here again with you today. We are your hosts. My name is Sophia Benyon, and this is my cousin Peyton Benyon.
Welcome back to our channel, everybody. If you are new here, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will appreciate it so very much.
My mom sent me such a interesting article the other day,
Yes.
and it was especially interesting because we'd already been talking about this topic, and then she sent us an article, and we're like, wait, this is a real thing, and that's what we want to talk about today. And what we want to talk about is why in our age group, men seem to be on a trend of going back to church, as in like men older than them weren't, but they are, and young women seem to be on a trend of leaving the church. And we want to talk about like why that is. I just think it's so interesting.
And do you mind to say where you read that?
I actually read 3 different articles. So my mom sent me one that she had just picked up off of Apple News, but then you sent me 2 more. I don't even know where you found them. One was just the American Survey Center, and the other one was New York
Intelligencer.
something.
It was just a little side article when I was looking up. We found the thing, her mom sent us a thing on Apple News, and then we said, hey, I wonder what other articles there are kind of corroborating with this. And then
So the stats on that are like super interesting. So they kind of give stats for like the generations. They do Boomer, X, Millennial, and Z. And so Boomers, during that generation, about 14% of women would have said that they were unaffiliated with church, as compared to 23% of men. In our generation, which we're considered Generation Z, now 34% of men are saying they're unaffiliated with religion, so that's 11% more. But 39% of women are saying that.
which is a giant jump for women.
25% more?
That is a big
Did I
jump for
calculate
women.
that right? Like, that's crazy. Why has it jumped that much is what we're curious in, and why did it pass up the men? Like, what happened there?
Yeah, I think it's super interesting. There was a lot of different reasons. I was looking it up and then I was thinking in my head, and it said that maybe women are because of the woke movement of women in the feminist wave that happened right before our generation. That movement kind of pushed women out of church.
The Me Too movement?
Yeah. But I think sometimes I'm about to like jump ahead and jump like
Just talk.
but I think like people fail to like distinguish things from each other. So there's certain things from the feminist movement that are bad, and there's certain principles that may have been correct. And I think a lot of times people throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to things like that. Like, did the church actually do something to push out women? Right? Like, could there have been more space made for them? Possibly so. But are we living in a man's world? Yes. And are men generally the head of the body?
Head of the body.
What?
Like, what do you mean by that?
I mean,
I just feel like that's really like.
Well, if we look in the
church
Bible,
language.
right, we have the 12 apostles, right? Those are all men up until Jesus Christ ascended, and then we have Priscilla or Aquila, whichever one of them is a woman.
Priscilla.
Priscilla. Okay, who knows? I never know. I literally
Priscilla.
never.
Don't you think Priscilla's like more of a girl's name though?
More, but I only know a girl Aquila. So I'm always like Priscilla or Aquila. But either way,
How
and it
did this,
doesn't.
wait,
like,
can
there's
I
like
just
one
say, how did
scripture
these
about her.
husband and wife get their name to rhyme? Like, that's too
Priscilla and Aquila, what in the
good. Okay,
world?
sorry.
But side note. But either way, when you look in the Bible, I mean, there's like only like one scripture about Priscilla, right? And the Bible doesn't explicitly
There's more
say.
than one for sure.
Okay, I lied. The Bible doesn't. Does the Bible explicitly say she is an apostle?
I don't think so. But I do think there's like, and here's the thing. We talked about this with Mother Sims, which I don't know which podcast is going to be released first, but she talked about how you got to do some digging to find the women in the scriptures. But they're there. Even in the New Testament,
Absolutely.
I think you could find more than one woman even that that you could like be led to believe by the scriptures was an apostle.
Yeah, and I'm so curious if a lot of what females had to do with Christianity got lost over the years through westernization
Through the misogyny of what it became. Not what it was, but what it became.
Yeah, colonization, because I would never believe that the gospel would push women away or include them.
Like the true gospel.
And I think if women felt like that and they were in a good church, they would be able to petition and work with leadership to figure out a way to not be oppressed, like how the widows did. They were like, hey, you're not taking care of us. And that's signs of a good church.
healthy
The widows
church, like,
felt comfortable to be like,
to speak
no, you need to take care of us. This isn't working. This Jew and Gentile thing, y'all ain't taking care of us. And they were able to speak up. So I think even if people do feel like they're in a church where females
Or
aren't
some
being
inequality or whatever.
in their right spot, that if people are leaving that, then that would be a sign that the church isn't doing a good job either way.
Right. These articles mentioned like 3 organizations that are large that would be considered Christian. Catholic. Are Mormons considered Christian? I don't even.
Yeah.
Yeah?
They believe in Jesus.
Yeah, but not as a savior.
Oh.
Anyway,
Maybe that makes sense.
Catholic, Mormon, and Southern Baptist, and they said all 3 of these organizations have been resistant to women in leadership.
Okay.
And we know there's other smaller religious
yeah.
organizations, for example, Amish
You got
and Mennonite,
Mennonites.
and
Yeah. And you could find a lot of Christianity where women were not allowed to preach, right? There's always the struggle over the scriptures that Paul wrote about let women keep their silence. And there's a lot of scriptures you can find along those lines. And I wonder if women, I love the word that they use in the article, have some cognitive dissonance with that and aren't able to really reconcile what their place is. And then I think sometimes maybe even women get out of their place because they don't have a place, and then we're mad at the women for being in the wrong place.
but there was
But
never
they weren't
space
given a
provided for them
space.
in the church.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So it's interesting. The other thing that's interesting to me is that at the same time that women are moving away, it's not just like men and women
Everyone's
are moving away.
leaving,
No,
yeah.
it's like women are moving away, but it seems like men are moving towards it.
And it seems like church would be more woke for women. But yeah, it's interesting that men are leaving.
One of the articles mentions how this could be really damaging for this phenomena could be damaging for church because it says in general, just like statistically speaking, women give more time and effort to the community organizations that churches support. So whether that's, providing shelter, food for people that are in need of it, or just
Showing the women that
those
are
type
there.
of community support organizations, it's the women give more time to it. And they said this moving out of the women could be very damaging to the church's contribution to the community, like what the church has traditionally provided. I thought that was interesting too. The articles also talk about a political divide, and they say that, like, I don't remember the exact numbers. I do remember, though, that women and men there's a 51-point separation in the way they voted.
Which is bigger than
with
it's
men
been.
voting much more conservatively than women. And I thought, okay, that was interesting, which obviously there's a woman running for president, too, on the liberal side, so that would be appealing to women just naturally, I think. But also, why would that mean women are moving away from the church? And what some of the articles suggest is that women, that church has traditionally been like against women's rights as far as like abortion. And they also cite like the church's resistance to LGBTQ as a reason.
Yeah, and they
Although
also
I would think that would also encourage men to leave in the same way.
Yeah.
But they say, and see, I would like to defend at least some of the men. Like I think this is an overgeneralization because some of the articles mention that, well, most likely the reason that men are moving back towards church is because maybe church provides that support they need for them to continue being misogynistic and white and racist. And let me acknowledge here that I realize that a lot of conservative churches have been racist, misogynistic places. So on the one hand, I don't blame women for wanting to walk away from something like that. If that's the only vibe they're getting in church, if they walk in and they feel like this is misogynistic, I'm not treated equally here, I don't have a place, my gifting's not appreciated, and furthermore, women tend to be more sensitive to things like that. There's
Absolutely.
racism, they're oppressing women and people of color. I don't want to be here. That makes sense. But to say that all the men moving back to our church are just looking for power.
I would think that would be written by a very secular person because who's to say God's not moving and striving with the hearts of men right now?
Right.
Because who's to say that?
And I think that was one of the articles. Another one mentioned that talks about we know statistically that our generation of men are lonelier than ever. And I've read several articles about that. And that maybe they're going back to church for that community.
Church provides a space.
Yeah.
And just a lot of structure, I think, that church provides. Just rules, regulations, do this, don't do that. That's comforting to
Advice
people.
and-
I mean, we're teachers and we see children at school. They hate it when you don't yell at them. I'm so serious.
They really do.
They really hate it. My dad's like, children love it when you yell at them because they know, oh, someone cares about me and they want me to do the right thing. Now, I'm not trying to compare
It's
people
not like
to children.
Or not that
but
we're yelling at the children all day
humans-
either.
No.
There's just that
Yeah.
providing of these are the boundaries and making that very clear.
Yes, absolutely.
Another thing that was mentioned again in these articles that I thought was so interesting. So we're having this political divide, this religious divide, but there's also this educational divide. In our generation, women are more educated than men. That was another such interesting thing.
Yeah, that's like so interesting because and it's also because they're judging educated by a certain like standard.
Absolutely.
Like more women have degrees
Right.
or whatever. But like what do you think that does for the family unit? Do you think that's like a hindrance or do you think that's fine or do you think the wave of feminism overdid it?
You brought up family. That's another divide. Men of our generation are more likely to want children than women of our generation.
That's a real problem because we gotta give them. Yeah, that's a real problem.
Like what? It's like we flipped all of our like 50 years ago. Our grandmas, I guarantee you, all these ideals were flipped. The men were more educated. The men were less religious. The men were, I don't know if the men were ever more liberal, but maybe they were. But I do wonder what all these things stacking on top of each other are going to do. More education, more liberal, less religious. What will that do to the family structure?
I just think it's going to be I think women are central to Christianity. There is no Christianity without women.
Why would you say that?
Well, most simply, I would say because of Mary. There's always Jesus, right? I don't want to be sacrilege or something, but there is no Jesus without Mary. Mm-hmm. He had to come through a woman, and the Holy Ghost, as Harriet Tubman said, man ain't had nothing to do with that, right? When she gave her speech, ain't I a woman?
That was Sojourner Truth.
Yeah, I meant. Now I'm dumb, but it's fine. Sojourner Truth said, ain't I a woman? And she gave that speech. And I just think Christianity, and if we lose that yin and yang in Christianity,
which I don't think if we lose that, I think what's known as Christianity has lost it a long time ago, for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, like it's imbalanced either way. Christianity, like you got to have both.
Like true Christian, inside of Christ, there is that balance. Yeah. I believe, but I'm just saying, a long time ago we got away from that, or what's termed Christianity.
It's almost like it got like very male centric, and then like before, and then the women said, hey, we're not going to stick around for this. And then it's like incredibly unbalanced because women used to be the ones that clung to Jesus and prayed for their drunken husbands to come home and serve the Lord. Like the praying mothers used to be a staple in society.
And even most young people, another thing from the article, it was saying they credit their mothers with they tend to the belief of their mother as opposed to their father.
Oh, yeah. Mm.
So women being unreligious is going to create a whole generation of...
Yeah, I wonder if that will have an effect on people being able to receive, like, true gospel when they hear it.
You're saying because they're already so turned off by it?
Yeah.
I think I think this is part of it. Women are more educated, and they're starting to look around and realize, no. Church, Christianity doesn't make sense. Why would I be here? Why would I keep doing this to myself? Why would I keep hearing this? Doesn't make sense. But true Christianity, the true gospel of Jesus Christ, does make sense. I think they could hear it. If they're being open and honest, they could be like, okay, now that didn't make sense, but this I can get with. Mm-hmm. This makes a place and a space for me to be valued, to be heard, to be free.
Okay, well then would you say that those men that are going back to church are gathering to a false idea of religion, or do you think that like God is actually moving on their heart and they're like coming back? I think it's both too, because there's always people that like God moves on them, and you have to move when God moves on you, and you move to wherever and however, whatever you know best.
I think it's both for both. I think some women are going away with a good desire, like they're seeing actual bad things and are leaving, and other women are leaving with the bad desire. They want to be free from the restraints that maybe should be on them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think it's the same thing for men. I think some are going back because they all of a sudden started realizing what white supremacy was, and they wanted to hold on to it. Mm-hmm. Because I think there's a lot of conservative religion that has supported white supremacy, and I think some are going back for that. But I think some are really looking for God, a community and for God, and
Actually, it's super interesting on how it's going to affect our world. Mm-hmm. That's taking place. That women are not religious, because I think women have been
the hardcore religious ones.
Yeah,
but I kind of like it. I think it kind of makes more of a space for me to talk to them than if they're already religious.
Yeah, because if you already think you're right, I don't know, I guess they think they're right for leaving. I don't know.
No, if they already think they understand who Jesus Christ is, it's harder to say, no, he's not that than this. Instead of if they're like, no, I don't like Jesus Christ because they have a misconception about him. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's easier to be like, no, you don't like him because that's not who he is. That's not what the gospel's actually saying. I don't know if that was a fallacy, but that's just how I feel about it.
I feel like what you're saying is that either way, it puts men in a position to be able to hear the gospel and women in a position to hear the gospel.
Maybe because of who men are. Because, okay, I think traditionally, men are naturally, men are more just resistant. And they know what they think, and they're very factual.
Yeah.
You know, I think just in general, I'm not trying to put people in a box. I realize there's artists and there's all kinds of people, and I realize there's more feminine men. Like, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm totally making a generalization.
Which is totally. It's fine to do that. Humans do general things.
I mean, that's how we make judgments, right? So, and I think women will be more fluid. So, if the men are moving towards a more spiritual mind frame and women are moving away, then maybe we can somehow come back to more of that balance, that yin and yang that you're talking about.
And I think if more men really want Christ, I think the women follow men. They really do. I really think that. And if they saw real men standing up against white supremacy in the church and saying, we're making space for our sisters, whether y'all come or not, we're making a space for you. And if women see that in a church, we already were in church. We were already there. We naturally tend towards a spiritual mind frame. We are like that. We're more in our intuition. We're more like that as in our natural femininity. And I think that when men create that space, we'll be allowed to live in that femininity again.
Yeah, I think you're so right.
I don't want to make it sound like that I put all the responsibility on men.
By saying that women follow men.
By saying that women follow men, because we do have a responsibility to follow when men do right things. And I think a lot of women don't like that.
That's true.
That there's this fleshly thing. There's this fleshly thing that's a part of that movement that doesn't want to submit to a man.
At all, ever.
Or a woman, or submit to anyone. You know what I'm saying? And I think we have a group of women that could be slightly rebellious and just opposed to any sort of authority.
Of leadership, right?
And the Bible says, give honor to whom honor is due. And God created the man first and then the woman to be the help. And I think that sometimes women leave the church to rebel against that sort of thought. And it's actually carnal, and it's not good, and it's nasty. They just don't want to submit. And right, which, like, I understand, I don't believe in submitting to nasty men either. But I do believe that if a man is, and I don't believe in submitting to any old man, whatever. But if a man is submitting under Christ, you can't, oppression.
Well, okay, a man is submitting under Christ, but also they have to be called to lead.
Absolutely. We can't have
you're not going to submit. Yeah.
Just trying to get up and pasture.
Or even a good Christian. I'm not just going to follow every good Christian man. They have to be called of God to lead in that capacity.
And even lead specifically you, because some men can't lead certain women.
Right.
And it has to be balanced. But I do want to say that I think there could be some carnality involved in females leaving church, which there always is. I'm sure there's carnality involved in men going back. You know?
That was a good point, Peyton. And I'm only saying that because you told me to say that was a good point. No, I'm like, it was actually a good point. And this is actually such an interesting conversation to me. I think we could get much more in depth with it. And I'd love to have a guest on to talk about it, because
Absolutely.
I think there's so many ways you could go with it. And just different dimensions of it that you could get into. But anyway, hope so much that you all enjoyed that. Let us know how you feel about it in the comments. Why do you feel like women are going away from church? And young women, you know, like, why is it that almost 40% of women under 30 are unaffiliated with the church? Like, why is that a thing?
Yeah.
And why does it seem like young men are moving back? And we'll be happy to engage with you in the comments. Y'all know what time it is.
Peace, love.
Oh, nope. I said peace. That was not peaceful.
Bro,
That was not peaceful.
I'm sweaty.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
Y'all know what time it is.
Peace, love, and hair grease.